Welcome. Before we begin, I have a few notes to announce about conducting virtual meetings. The meeting must comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. Accordingly, the public may view the meeting via a link provided in the advertised agenda. Please ensure your video is streaming and that you can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. For any items that require a vote, and there will be 2 today, a roll call vote will be necessary to record the vote of each board member. The member should state their name, pause, and then state, "I vote yes," or "I vote no." So please silence or turn off other electronic devices that may cause disruption to your sound feed. So I'll now turn it back to Meredith for our roll call.
Thank you. Holly Bloodworth.
Here. Holly Bloodworth, here.
Jude Dale.
Jude Dale, here.
Joanna Stevens.
Joanna Stevens, here.
Steve Trimble.
Steve Trimble, here.
Okay, Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. So we'll move to the selection of candidates. To be selected as the teacher member, the applicant must be employed on a full-time basis by a Kentucky Public School District in a position for which Education Professional Standards Board, the EPSB, certification is required, not employed in an administrative role, and must reside in Kentucky's 1st Congressional District. To be selected as the student member, the applicant must be enrolled in a Kentucky public high school, be a junior in good standing on July 1st, which means a sophomore at the time of the application, and must reside in Kentucky's 5th Congressional District. So committee members were asked to review the candidates prior to our meeting. Therefore, a good starting place is for each member to share and identify their top applicant for each position for consideration and discussion. So remember, no candidate can be referred to by name. Please use only the application numbers and do not share any confidential information.
Okay, can I go first?
Go for it.
All right, so for the student role, my top candidate was candidate 4. And then for my teacher role, my top candidate was candidate 3.
Okay. You just want each of us to share that information? All right.
Sure.
So for me, my top, which one is that? Teacher candidate was number 1. And my top student candidate was number 7.
Okay. For teacher, my top candidate was candidate number 1. And I actually had a tie for students, 1 and 4. But if I had to pick between the 2, I really can't. It could be 1 or 4. So that's kind of, if y'all make me pick between 2, I will, but both of them are all good, but these 2 are especially good in my mind.
And my top student was candidate 7. And my top teacher was candidate 1.
All right.
So
Jude, who'd you put for your top candidate and student?
For student, my top candidate was 4, but in second was candidate 7 by like 1 point. Like it was like both of those really stood out to me.
mine were within 1 point of each other as well.
Yeah, like mine, all 3 of mine were really close.
So Joanna, you have for the teacher position 3 votes in favor of candidate 1, and then you have 1 vote in favor of candidate 3. So you may want to have some deliberation about 1 and 3. Maybe Jude could share her thoughts on candidate 3 and any thoughts that she has on candidate 1. and you can try to maybe focus on narrowing down the teacher candidate first.
Okay, I can go ahead with just like my thought process. I thought every single applicant, both students and teachers, were really great. Like both students and teachers, I was like between 1 point. So candidate 1 was actually my second for the teacher. So the reason I put candidate 3 first was I just thought the resume was extremely impressive, like the amount of awards and like leadership opportunities, and then like their member roles on like countless of things. And then I also really enjoyed their narrative. Like I could like sense the passion in that, and they really advocated towards student voice, and also I believe they spoke on literacy and like those types of things. And so I could just tell how passionate they were. So that is why I put candidate 1 or candidate 3 first. But I thought candidate 1 is just as great. I think after seeing their resume and reading their narrative, like I would be okay with selecting them if that's all what you guys would like.
Yeah, for me, candidate, it was just 1 point difference. I mean, it was very close. But I agree that, all of the candidates were really great. One thing that stood out to me was kind of thinking about our work that we're thinking about, like just the skills and the backgrounds that the people were bringing that match kind of our initiatives and our goals, and like who might be able to have like the experiences that resonate with the work that we're doing. So that was something that I gravitated toward. So
that's kind of what I did. When you're looking at some of the details in their narrative, you talked about school funding, teacher retention, recruitment, early childhood education, interrupted learning, and COVID, and improving math and reading scores. And I think that lined right up with basically what we're really pushing for and trying to do on Kentucky Board of Education. And Jude, I agree with you. That one was right behind that you picked also, so it's very, very close. And then she went on to say, and I gave her a pretty good bonus. It says I really liked the part where she worked in collaboration with county public schools and colleges to instruct scholars and interested in becoming educators in order to build a talent pipeline in her school district. And I thought that was good because of our teacher shortage and things. Those kind of stood out.
And I liked the varied experience that number 1 offered, where they had a background in elementary education and even early education. And then now they're working with high school students. So they're familiar with the elementary, but then they also know about the pathways in high school. But I thought just the varied experience stood out to me. And then also that they worked with KBE on the standard revision process for math. So, we will be looking towards that. I think 2026 might be, or 2025, we start that. So just having that experience and that background, I thought would be beneficial. And
so Jude, did we make a motion? If it's all right with Jude, did we make a motion that we select?
Of course, yeah.
Application 1 to be our non-voting teacher member. Can I make that motion? Is that okay to do that, Joanna?
so Meredith, can we make the motion separately, or do we need to do those both together?
However you'd like. If you'd like to go ahead and make the motion now and approve the teacher and then talk about the student, that works perfectly.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Trimble has made the motion for candidate 1. Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So are you ready for the roll call vote, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Holly Bloodworth.
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Jude Dale.
Jude Dale, I vote yes.
Joanna Stevens.
Joanna Stevens, I vote yes.
Steve Trimble.
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
Okay, Chair, for the student, you had 2 votes for candidate number 4, 2 for candidate 7, and then a bonus vote for candidate 1.
We can stay with 4 if you want to. I'll lean towards 4. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So if you want to discuss those two candidates.
So I can start. I have my notes written down, like, so I have them all in front of me. But so my top two were candidate 4 and 7. So I think that all three candidates were amazing. Like, I loved all the narratives. But for me, candidate 4 really stood out. I liked paying attention to like the recommendations and seeing what people had to say about working with that student. And the recommendations for candidate 4 were just really compelling. And I also thought that their resume was really compelling. So that's why that kind of put them on top. But my main thing when going over the students was finding someone whose voice hasn't already been heard. So like having like that diversity, having that new voice into the education system. And so that's why I put candidate 4 on top, because their narrative, you could tell like how passionate they were. They spoke about all of their like leadership opportunities, how they wanted to advocate for students, but they also spoke about being interested in like the policy work. And I think that was really important because most of our board meetings are policy and just going over that. So if that's something that doesn't interest you, then it's going to be really hard to just like sit through those board meetings if you don't have like kind of an interest in it. So candidate 4 was on top for me, but I also do really like candidate 7. By what I've gathered for candidate 7, they're a school athlete. They're I believe someone in their family was an educator, and that's where they get a lot of their ideas from. And like that's kind of like a role model to that candidate. And so just hearing what I really liked candidate 7's narrative. But if I had to go over, I would put candidate 4 on top.
Okay, well, all three of these students just were amazing. So, I mean, I'm going to be happy with whichever one we select because I don't think we can go wrong in this situation. They obviously were, the students who vetted these did a great job of like pulling out 3 really, really great ones. So I did have number 7 on top. For me, it was also the recommendations, and they just, some of the things that people said about this candidate really stood out to me. I don't know, can I quote something from that, or is that?
As long as it's not disclosing any confidential information, which should have been redacted, then it is fine for you to quote that.
So one of the quotes from one of the letters said, this student has the perspective of a student, but the maturity of an adult. And I don't know, that I felt like all through that candidate's application, I could sense that in their narrative and in, I don't know, just the things that they've done and the work that they've done. And both recommendations seem to kind of echo that. So I loved that somebody called this person charismatic and had like lots of integrity and morals. And I don't know, there were just some really powerful words connected with this candidate. So that's why this one came out on top for me, but it was like 1 point difference. So I agree, Jude, that the other candidate that we just, number 4, was really fabulous too.
Joanna, what about you with number 7?
For me, it was the narrative that really stood out, distinguished this one. 4 was just 1 point behind. So all 3 of the students I thought were fabulous and would represent student voice well for Kentucky. With number 7, I liked how they focused on the importance of schools in those rural communities and talking about, how important the football and the basketball games are, but also just the workforce, that for those small communities, that, the school district is usually your largest employer, and just the importance of having qualified educators. And then I liked the perspective that they offered of the preparing students for post-secondary. And they even brought up the portrait of a learner. So I thought that was, I appreciated that they had done their diligence to look into, things that the state was working on. But I can like 4 was very impressive as well. They also talked about, being an advocate for those underdeserved communities. And so having that voice for those communities, I think, and they talked about the innovation and creativity and the skills for a 21st century workforce. I was impressed with both, but I did have 7, 1 point ahead of 4.
I had like that too, just like 1 point difference, and looking at number 7, which I could easily lean that way without any trouble. I liked the part where he had that high school and college perspective, where his dad had been into a couple of colleges and worked, and he's been associated with that during his life, and maybe we need a little bit of that post-secondary information in on the KBE, and so I could easily go with this applicant number 7.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like candidate 7, I thought was extremely impressive. And it's just the narratives with candidate 4 and candidate 7 were too like different. Like they took on 2 different like roles. So that's kind of what was tricky for me. Like candidate 4, what really hooked me was in their introduction paragraph, they spoke about how like at some point they were tired of going to school, like they didn't want to, but then they realized that like education was power, and they've used that, and that's why they do everything that they do. And that hooked me like automatically. It was just because every student has had that feeling of like burnout from school, and why do I really have to be here? And so just that's what really got me engaged with that narrative. But then candidate 7, obviously I'm not from a rural community. I don't exactly know how schools work there. So I was really appreciative of seeing how that person structured their narrative based off their community. And because I feel like that's a point of view that we haven't heard yet. Like Soliano is from Louisville and I'm from Boone County. Like those are extremely populated areas. So I think candidate 7 would really have a lot to bring to the table. So I can go either way. It's
I can go
Chair,
Okay.
I think at this point, if you want to re-poll the whole group, you could do that and see where they are, and then we could proceed with the motion if you'd like to see if people have changed their minds.
We just
So Jude,
called the
would
name.
you like? Sure, Jude. So this is not an official vote, but Jude, if you want to start for the student.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if I want to start, but okay. I'm gonna say candidate 4 just so I could stick by them just a little bit longer. But if you all say candidate 7, then I'm okay with candidate 7.
Okay, Mr. Trimble.
I think I'm leaning towards 7. I think I'm leaning towards 7.
Joanna.
I'm going to stick with 7.
Holly.
Yeah, 7 is my pick.
All right, I'm 7 too now, guys. I think we did it.
Okay. So
I'd rather pick Joanna and Jude. That's who I'd rather.
I know, that is true.
But we can't do that, I don't guess.
So do we have a motion to approve applicant 7 as the recommended candidate for the Kentucky Board of Education non-voting student?
I so move.
And
I
is there a second?
I second it.
Okay.
Roll call.
Holly Bloodworth.
Holly Bloodworth, I vote yes.
Jude Dale.
Jude Dale, I vote yes.
Joanna Stevens.
Joanna Stevens, I vote yes.
Steve Trimble.
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.
So I think at this time we just need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Jude, why don't you make it?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is
Second.
Holly Bloodworth.
I vote yes.
Jude Dale,
Jude Dale, I vote yes.
Joanna Stevens,
Joanna Stevens, I vote yes.
Steve Trimble.
Steve Trimble, I vote yes.